Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here on this week's episode, number 354. Racking them up right now, actually. This is great. Of course, got a lot to talk about. A couple bits of news, and then I want to dive into a little bit more about the things coming from the High Republic. An era that I am trying to dive into more and more. So there were some reveals that came out a little bit. I think it's been within the last week, might have been the last couple weeks, but a lot coming from phase 2 of that, which begins later this year. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that because there's a lot there and some surprising details that I wanted to kind of talk about. So, of course, first up though, new patrons. I want to always acknowledge new patrons. You know, we just started the Patreon account a couple of weeks ago, and didn't think I'd get really that many signing up, but you know, got a couple of people signing up, which is fantastic. And acknowledged a couple last time, but this time just acknowledging. He goes by Thrawn Addict. And I've been talking about his comments a lot on the videos. He's watching on YouTube a lot, which I'll talk about some of his comments later at the end of the episode. But Thrawn, wanted to thank you. Say really appreciate it and really appreciate the engagement as well. And I want to say too that he has signed up for the highest tier. Awesome. Means I'm going to get you a lot of stuff. So, and also this obviously ramps up our content a little bit more too, because I want to make sure you're getting everything you want, need, and request. And I know the big thing that you've talked about with me is commentaries, which is coming. Trying to figure out the best way to do that, because we might even do them live if possible. So you guys can actually comment also while we're talking about these movies. Really looking forward to it, because I was talking to Hannah, who I do Beyond the Saga with, just recently about it. She's excited because she hasn't done a commentary with us. And I was talking about last time we actually did one was really before episode 8. And we haven't done one for Solo. We haven't done one for episode 9 yet. We did one for episode 8, but unfortunately something happened to the audio, so I didn't release it. And then the pandemic happened and we never got together to do another one. But now with the, remote Zooming and all that stuff, we can probably do one over the airways here and not have to be in person. I like them in person, but we will try to figure out how to do that. I think, but it's possible. It's definitely coming. So look for that soon. But again, Thrawn Addict. Really, just want to keep saying thank you for joining and trusting that this is gonna be where you want to be to get your Star Wars content, and we will put out as much as we can and get that to you. So. Yeah, great. Thank you. And, I'll tell you what, these first, patrons that have signed up, I've got some, messages going on with them, and, those are kind of private, so I don't want to share those on the show, but you first ones that have signed up, I will tell you that I want to keep you guys as much involved also too. I'll probably reach out to you, bug you more often about ideas for the show, about definitely questions that we can use for council sessions and things like that. New ideas, new directions, whatever you guys want to do. But I'm just gonna keep diving into Star Wars and giving you more content as we go. So check that Patreon feed. And then also launching some more merch here soon. So look for that. That'd be awesome you guys get involved with that kind of stuff. So thank you. More to come from that. Moving on, let's see. Again, some brief celebration news. New announcements on guests. Of course, Sam Witwer has been announced. Matt Lanter, Katie O'Brien. They're all going to be at Star Wars Celebration. Totally feel like you're going to get a lot of people there at Star Wars Celebration since it's in Anaheim. I know when we were there in Anaheim prior to episode 7, I don't think anybody missed that unless they're working and they can't make it. But there's going to be a lot of people there since it's right in the back door of Hollywood there. So that's the latest announcement. Sam Witwer, Matt Lanter, Katie O'Brien. Of course, Sam Witwer, from Rebels and Clone Wars as Darth Maul. Matt Lanter, voice of Anakin Skywalker, and then Katie O'Brien was one of Moff Gideon's officers and played several episodes in The Mandalorian, so she was live action as well. So, not as well, but in live action with The Mandalorian. So, go to Celebration. Last episode, I talked about, my top 5 reasons to attend Celebration. I wish I was going. Can't make it this year. So I will definitely plan on going the next time it's out, next time it happens. Hopefully it's closer to this side of the country, like maybe Florida again, or even Chicago, or, they did Celebration 3 in Indianapolis, which was awesome because that's only like 2 hours from where I'm at. So hopefully they can spread it around again. But I have a feeling it's going to stick around in Anaheim. And if they do it, they might do it in Orlando, obviously being near the parks and stuff like that. So both venues are really good. Anaheim was actually really, really nice. And one of the good parts about Anaheim, too, is they had a big strip of food trucks that were parked outside. So there was some great food outside that you can go get. Orlando was a little different. They had just indoor food, but Anaheim was a good time. That was a great time. So very jealous. Everybody, I see everybody tweeting on about going, and people have actually messaged me about seeing me there, but I can't be there. So unfortunately, I will be reporting on all that stuff, just like you guys watching it and talking about it. So Star Wars Celebration, end of May. Of course, during the debut of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let's see. They, as in StarWars.com, put out a very interesting article. They do this, but I don't really talk about it. But they got some solicitations for some comics coming out later this year in July. In a way, the exclusive previews came out in July. A lot of comics are hitting the shelves these days for Star Wars. You've got Obi-Wan Kenobi's series starting in May. You've got Han Solo and Chewbacca currently out there right now. You've got Bounty Hunters, Vader, Dr. Aphra. You got Mandalorian actually starting too, which is again just a comic version of season 1, which is a little weird. I wish they would do a whole new story, because if you're going to spend the money on a writer and a artist and a colorist, I don't know. I feel like you'd get more out of it if you did just a whole new story that people, because obviously a lot of people watch The Mandalorian, so they could check this out and get a new story instead of just rehashing. And because personally, I'd rather just rewatch the series, right? But a lot of these stories coming out this summer aren't there's no crossovers anymore going on, because there's a crossover right now with Crimson Reign. But Obi-Wan looks like it's a flashback to the Clone Wars, because a nice little cover has him and Commander Cody on there. The Mandalorian's got a good looking cover of number 2. It's him hanging off the side of the Sandcrawler. And then you got Star Wars 26 by Charles Soule. And you got, of course, Vader, which has on the cover. It looks like is that Kira or is that Sabe? It looks like it's Sabe. So that's another interesting thing that's going on. So one thing I'm going to do too on the Patreon side is to get caught up and do more weekly comic reviews of these issues coming out versus just doing the collections with Beyond the Saga on with Hannah on Beyond the Saga. So I need to get to some reading, which I will do. Han Solo and Chewbacca, that's a great start to that. I started reading that. Bounty Hunters, which is cool. Looks like there's a Knights of Ren on that cover. And of course, Dr. Aphra. Lots of great comics. If you go to StarWars.com, you can kind of hit that preview there. But a lot of comics. And of course, just a reminder that IDW is ending their comic run with Lucasfilm. And all that content is going to be shifted over back to Dark Horse. So Dark Horse this summer will be releasing Star Wars comics, which is cool because that's I remember Dark Horse being the only one for a while there, which was pretty neat that they're going back to publishing Star Wars comics, and that will happen this year as well. Okay. That's really it on the news side of things. Kind of slow because, everything's gearing up for May, it seems like. May the 4th is coming in a couple weeks. Probably not going to be a lot of reveals, I don't think, because, of course, Celebration is just 3 weeks after that. I think May the 4th would be a good time to maybe get another Obi-Wan trailer. But beyond that, I don't think we're going to get anything else. I think everything is going to be saved for Celebration, and I mean everything. It looks like there's probably going to be a lot of there's rumors out there about well, I don't think it's rumors. Could be pretty good speculation. Jedi Fallen Order 2 announcement. Probably more information on some games that are coming out. Maybe more on Star Wars Eclipse. Maybe more about this open world game that's coming out. I think there's going to be a lot of gaming news that comes out, as well as probably an announcement of what the next film is going to be, theatrical film. And then, of course, maybe a more realized schedule of what's coming on Disney Plus, because right now there's things floating around that we are going to possibly get a Bad Batch season 2 this year. That's kind of unlikely because now there's rumors coming out that there's new episodes of Star Wars Visions that's actually dropping later this year. So now at least what I'm seeing, Star Wars Visions didn't do as good as they thought it was going to do, but it did pretty good still. So I think season 2 of that is going to happen, and it looks like it's going to come out this year as well. So it looks like live action wise, Obi-Wan, Andor, and then the start of Mandalorian season 3 at the end of the year. But then animation wise, looks like we're going to get Star Wars Visions, and then Bad Batch is still up in the air, but it sounds like that might be moving to 2023. So I think we'll get more clarity on that come Celebration, and we'll get a little bit of clarity on what movies are possibly coming, either from Patty Jenkins or Taika Waititi, or maybe even, dare I say, a Rian Johnson update on what he's doing with Star Wars. Who knows? So not a lot of news right now. I think a lot of that's going to be held until the end of May. So we'll keep covering what we can. But right now, okay, before I get into the High Republic, got some upcoming releases. Of course, on the novel side, the next big one is Brotherhood on May 10th. You got June 28th with Shadow of the Sith. Big one, can't wait for that. July 26th is Padawan. Princess and the Scoundrel August 16th. And then High Republic Convergence on the October 4th, and High Republic Path of the Seed on November 1st. So remember, those are the novels adult novels and young adult novels coming out this year. Comics, this past week you had Star Wars 22 and Darth Vader 22. Next week you got Halcyon Legacy number 3, Crimson Reign number 4. 27th you got Han Solo and Chewbacca number 2, Dr. Aphra 20. And then also Star Wars 23. And then on May the 4th, like I said, Obi-Wan number 1, Chrysanthemum number 1, and Crimson Reign concludes with number 5. Those are your May the 4th comics. And that actually might be actually a good target date for me to spend the next couple weeks getting caught up on these things. So that way on May the 4th, I can start reviewing comics as they come out, because I'm definitely going to be diving into Obi-Wan and Chrysanthemum, and then I want to finish up that Crimson Reign series. So that's actually a good goal for me to get that going. So look for that for you patrons out there. Some more weekly comic reviews on the Patreon feed. Okay, so I wanted to kind of dive into the High Republic a little bit. They've been having some anniversary. Well, they had an anniversary release that come out, and then they had kind of an update on StarWars.com with what's coming in Phase 2, with the High Republic show. I didn't watch the whole full High Republic show, which I will do eventually, but I wanted to. I just kind of read some articles, kind of get the gist of what's happening here, and I'm going to talk to you guys about it, just so that you don't have to do it if you just listen to me about it. So, High Republic Phase 1 is obviously coming to an end this year, early this year. The last couple novels were released, which was The Falling Star and Midnight Horizon were the two main novels, adult novels and young adult novel. And there's still a comic run going on by Kevin Scott. But what's crazy is that, so Phase 1 is coming to an end, which apparently in the novels that are out there has come to a explosive end in a sense. I am still in the middle of Phase 1. I'm reading the comics, and I am still in the novels, early in the novels. I'm still finishing up Into the Dark, and then I'll be moving on more to those other ones, try to get caught up. But what's interesting, as far as the Phase 2 side of things, so Phase 2 is starting here this year. With the comics, it basically is towards the end of the year when these comics that or these novels I just talked about, Convergence and Path of Deceit, hits your shelves. So that's October. So you got comics starting in October, new comics starting in October. I think Kevin Scott's doing a new series, and then these novels. Again, more will probably come out news-wise at Celebration. But two interesting things that about Phase 2 I wanted to kind of talk about. Number one is you've got a new list, an additional list. I think the Luminous Five, as they call them, the original writers. You got Daniel Jose Older and Kevin Scott and Charles Soule and Claudia Gray and oh my gosh, my head blanking all of a sudden. I had her name, Justina Ireland. So you got those Luminous Five, and they are now actually going to be joined by additional writers for Phase 2, which are Zoraida Cordova, George Mann, Tessa Granton, and Lydia Kang. So you've got those new writers joining the Luminous Five on Phase 2. Like I said, Kevin Scott is continuing his comic series in October. You got Daniel Jose Older, who's apparently moving from the IDW comics over to Dark Horse to continue graphic novels of the High Republic over on there. Charles Soule is coming out with a new Marvel series as well. And and I'm sure you got novels from Claudia Gray and all that stuff coming still too. But I thought that was pretty cool. It's not just those 5 authors anymore. They're bringing more people in to tell these stories and whatnot, which makes sense because they were probably so focused on phase 1 and working so hard that you had to have additional writers come in if you were going to keep this rolling one after the other. So phase 2 starts later this year with all this other content. I'm sure those authors and everything, again, will be at Celebration to talk more about it. So there's that. Now, actually, there's 3 things I want to talk about. And then the second thing is the additional content as well, not just on the publishing side. So, of course, there's novels, and there's going to be junior novels and stuff like that as well. I don't really get into those, but I'm more focused on the adult novels, young adult novels. But there are a lot of phase 1. There was a lot of junior novels and young reader books and stuff like that. But in phase 2, they're going to be continuing that all those things, but also what seems like might be dropping during phase 2 is the series we heard about, right? The Acolyte, which is a live action series coming to Disney Plus. Still no word on when that starts shooting. Again, probably Celebration. That'll probably get announced. I anticipate that actually getting announced at Celebration. More details on when that's getting started, when that might debut, which I think it could possibly debut in 2023 at some point if they want to keep this around phase 1, because it seems like they're doing these in obviously in year and a half time periods, because technically phase 1 launched in January of 2021. It was supposed to launch late 2020, but it didn't really come out till January 2021. So, had a full year last year. It's going to be rolling out about 6 to 8 months this year. So about a year and a half. So phase 2 starts roughly in September, October. You got 2023 and into a little bit into 2024. So I believe Acolyte will probably debut sometime during phase 2. And then you've also got the video game I mentioned earlier by Quantic Dream, which is Star Wars Eclipse, both set in the High Republic era. So again, and then Dark Horse is going to be continuing High Republic. So not only is High Republic going to continue heavily in the publishing side, but they are expanding it into live action series, games. So they're fully invested in this thing. There's no doubt they're going to see this through at least the 3 phases, because there's a 3rd phase too coming that is planned already. So that is interesting, I think, to note still that High Republic is not just going to be publishing. So I think once the Acolyte comes out, I think once Eclipse comes out, I think it's going to make a lot of people go back and dive into these novels and these comics. So if you haven't already, that might motivate you a little bit more. So the third thing, which I think is a really interesting aspect of this, and I might definitely will watch as much video on that show to see if they explain this, but the first phase of the High Republic takes place 200 years before Episode 1, right? Already a time period that we haven't ventured into canonically. Nothing outside Episodes 1 through 9, except a couple of prequel novels before Episode 1, like Master and Apprentice, are canon. Everything else takes place during that time period between 1 and 9. But now, with the High Republic, we've gone beyond that, 200 years before. And apparently with Phase 2, we're even going further back in time. It's teased that this new chapter, Phase 2, will take place 150 years before Phase 1. So 350 years before Episode 1, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So we're going further back. It's basically being touted as a prequel to Phase 1. So not sure, not sure the reasoning behind that. Obviously, they have this story, I'm assuming, laid out to why you're doing that. But with some of the characters they've already revealed, it's they are going back. So I found that very, very interesting. 150 years. And again, why? I remember we were talking on the show one time, and it keeps popping in my head, the reasoning behind these time periods. I don't think you can just randomly pick a year and say we're going to do stories during this time period. I think there's got to be some kind of connection ultimately with what happens in the era that we are so familiar with, which is the Skywalker saga. There's got to be some kind of connection. Maybe not with the Skywalkers, obviously, but maybe with Palpatine, maybe with the Sith, because they're in hiding this whole time, right? So the Acolyte, again, is a little bit of an indication of maybe we're going to explore that more, the dark side and the Sith. So why they're even going back further, I guess there's something there that's going to lead into what has happened in the High Republic during Phase 1, maybe. I guess that's why you would do a prequel, right? I mean, we saw the prequels get created, episodes 1, 2, and 3, because George wanted us to know how it got so bad. How did Vader turn? What happened with the Clone Wars? So you would go back to 150 years before that to say, this is why this happened, or this explains why this happened. But that's a long time. 150 years, that's a whole another several generations. So that's a pretty big jump. I don't know what the reasoning for that is, but it is curious. I'm very curious on why that is happening like that. Of course, my favorite character, Yoda, is still around. He's a lot younger. So maybe at that point he's 350. So he's about 500. So 550 years old at that point. So he's a strapping, and he's maybe in his prime, or just on the decline of his prime, maybe at that point. But hopefully he's in Phase 2 as well. He's been in a little bit that I've seen so far of Phase 1. But very interesting. I thought that was interesting. If you didn't know, that it's even going further back. We're not continuing. We're not leading up to episode 1, which I kind of thought would be the case to fill in that gap a little bit. But maybe that's what Phase 3 is going to do. Maybe Phase 3, or maybe that's what the games and the Acolyte are going to do, is continue getting us closer to episode 1 with some details. So we'll see. But I think in the end, at least if I were on the creative team to do this, in the end, it's got to tie together somehow. Because if it's not going to tie together with the Skywalker saga, then I feel like you should have gone further back. You should have gone to the High Republic, or to the Old Republic, or prior to 1,000 years prior to the reestablishment of the Republic. So to keep it completely separate, I think if you're this close to it, you've got Yoda, a couple characters that do survive and live to the Skywalker saga. I think you've got to continue that on and somehow make it all connect. So I think they're going to do that. So we'll see. This is going to take over another year, 2 or 3 years at least, to get through these 3 phases. So you got time if you want to get into the High Republic. You definitely got time. But there's a lot of content. And we'll do our best to, on this show and on Beyond the Saga, to kind of focus you on really the main story and talk about the main story. We'll probably have to do more details on that as we talk about the High Republic. Okay. Thought I'd just mention that. That's really it for this episode, this week's show. I want to talk about some comments here. Mainly, again, like I said, from this Front Thrawn Addict, talking about some things from my last show here. Let's see. Thrawn Addict actually just mentions on our Council Sessions episode, which I thought was really fun to do. It was the one called "Who Wins in the Next Duel of Obi-Wan and Vader?" Because we're going to see that again in the series, And Martin Donison, my Mandalore co-host, we talked about our thoughts on who actually wins, because we both know that, well, everybody knows that they both survive, but who walks away as kind of the winner, and that's what we talked about. Thrawn Addict mentions, tough one to call who wins. Easiest way is for Vader to be dominating most of the duel, and then Obi-Wan just about gets the upper hand and escapes. Obi-Wan could also use a line stating he is still the learner apprentice before he escapes, which could help the line in A New Hope. Yes, very much so. I think that line is very is a big part of their relationship. You know, in episode 4, you just got the feeling that, because you remember at that point, if you've never seen or heard about Star Wars, at that point, Vader is known as Obi-Wan's old pupil, right? He told Luke he was a pupil of mine until he turned to evil. He helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights. He betrayed and murdered your father. I mean, he at this point, we don't know anything about Darth Vader besides he was somebody that Obi-Wan trained and is now wanting to kill him. So when he says, last we met, I was but the learner, now I am the master. So we never knew, obviously, when they had fought, and we never knew if they had fought more than once. Well, now we know, and that line is very revealing to me about Vader's sense of thinking still that, he's got to convince Obi-Wan that he is more powerful than him now, and but part of me doesn't think he believes it yet. So he's definitely physically trying to show him, right? That's why they're fighting. So I think, I think the duel that happens, I think you're right, Thrawn. I think it's, there's going to be something in there that hints to that line. And maybe it comes from Obi-Wan. Maybe Obi-Wan even tells him, you're still learning, so that's actually pretty cool. I like that. So that is comments. A good comment there, Thrawn. Again, got some other shows popping up here soon. Got getting more subscribers on YouTube, which is great. So thanks everybody for being involved there. Just keep spreading the word there, and we'll keep putting up some more content there as well. But that is it. Again, patreon.com/Inside the Force if you want to help support the show. Of course, go to InsideTheForce.com and follow us on any podcast feed out there. We're all on all of them. The website is about to get revamped a little bit here, so I'm going to update that shortly. Working on that. But of course, if you want to watch the show and all of our shows, youtube.com/Inside the Force. Again, Patreon, there will be a lot of exclusive Patreon content that we're going to put on there and not end up hitting on YouTube. Most of it will eventually get up on YouTube, but or in the podcast feeds. But we're going to do some exclusive stuff for people that are supporting the show there. So again, thank you for the patrons. I will be contacting you to hopefully get some more advice and some guidance and some suggestions. Want to get you guys involved. Of course, Mandalore podcast with Martin Donison on all the podcast feeds as well. We're going to be deep diving into all the Obi-Wan episodes that come out. Remember, that debuts not May 25th anymore, May 27th, which is a bummer because May 25th is the anniversary of Star Wars. So I wish they would still keep it on the 25th, but they're not. They're moving it to Friday, the 27th, and you're going to get 2 episodes, which means we'll deep dive into 2 episodes on The Mandalorian, and I'll talk about it on this show as well. Of course, all of our other shows, Council Sessions, Beyond the Saga, Masters of the Order, and Dark Knowledge are creating more shows, and more of those will be rolling out. So, all right. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great rest of the week or weekend, whenever you're listening to this. See you guys next week. Thank you so much. Take care. May the force be with you.